Hey, 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 it's just me today, solo. I have a little bit of a treat for you. So, last week I had Jim Cooper as the guest on my show. And during the podcast, we talked about how we met on Jim's show, the Hydrant podcast. And that's how I got to know Jim in the first place. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if this week I did a replay of the interview that Jim did with me? So, anyways, Jim Cooper was so gracious and gave me the video and the audio so that I could use that as a back to back episode on this podcast. So, anyways, I hope you enjoy our conversation where this time Jim Cooper is in the pilot seat and I'm in the co pilot seat. And I hope you enjoy it.
With me today is Jillian Whitney. She's an author. She's a podcaster. She's a book and business book and marketing coach. And I'm happy to have her on the show. Welcome to the Hydrant.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for being here. As I mentioned, she's an author. She's got 5 books out, and they all have to do with writing and getting your business book out there. She is the owner of, and I love this name, Easy Peasy Books, LLC. And she also has a podcast called Easy Peasy Books as well. And do you still do the LinkedIn Live sessions? I saw that you had some out there, but didn't know if you were still doing those.
I was just taking a break for the summer as I switched. I moved across the country, and I needed to go from being a Las Vegas gal, put away all my cards and casino life,
Right.
and then now I had to pick up my cowboy hat. So I went from like a feather boa to a cowboy hat, and so I decided to take the summer off, not from working, just from live streaming.
Right.
I've been live streaming for 4 years, so I needed a break.
Right. And I did the exact same thing with this podcast. I've been doing it for about 4 years, and I took the summer off so we're gearing it back up now. Let's talk about the podcast and your company, Easy Peasy Books. What is the focus of the podcast? What are you targeting with that?
So basically just to have more visibility and get the word out, but also too, I really like to help people. And so every piece of content I make, every interview I do, whether it's a live stream, and I basically take my live streams and turn it into the podcast. So that's how I do that. But basically, I'm always trying to help people learn about writing business books, marketing business books, and publishing business books. So basically the 3 things. I just said it out of order, but that's okay. But it's that idea that I know people are struggling out there. I am one of those crazy people that believes that everyone has a book in them. And I know a lot of people, they say, nah, that's not true. I believe we all have insights and stories, and you don't have to be a famous person to do this. We all have learned life lessons. And if we're entrepreneurs, if we're in business, most of us have learned things along the way doing our businesses, and those lessons can be put in a book. So it's my belief that it's kind of hard. It's very hard to write a book. So whatever I can do to make it easier for people, I like to make it easy peasy, as easy as possible. It doesn't have to be complicated.
And you actually have a book that targets that specifically from, and I think it's called Expert to Author, on how to specifically do a business book, which is kind of a wheelhouse of mine because I do audiobook narrations, and the bulk of what I do are business books and, that kind of thing, real estate, business, finance, that kind of thing. And I agree with you that I think everyone has the book in them. The question is, how do you get it from there to the page and out? Which, unless you've experienced that, and I've experienced twice because I've published 2 books, it's a big mystery and can be very daunting to anyone just about to go through it. Absolutely. So how do you handle that with someone that comes to you and says, okay, I've got this book, I've sort of written it out a little bit. What are you going to tell me as an author? What do I need to do?
Well, I would say for the most part, not all of us are writers. So I love to write. I journal. I've been writing all my life. I journal, I blog, I do all sorts of different things. So I've always been comfortable. I'm a tech writer by trade. So I've been writing my whole life. But I understand that for a lot of people, you say the word writing and they go back to fifth grade and English
Right.
and, oh, I can't do that kind of stuff. So we're not all writers, even though we have a book in us. So sometimes what you have to do is you have to have a way to get from I got this content to how do I make a book out of it. Now,
Right.
some people, they can work with a book coach and they can, extract it and, write and this and that. But for other people, they might already be sitting on a gold mine of content today. So they don't necessarily have to start with the blank page up Microsoft Word, you're typing out, I
Right.
began my journey. You don't always have to do that, because if you've been on podcasts, if you've done live streams, if you've written blog articles, these are all it's content. So all you have to do is look at that and just say, okay, how do I organize this? And so, I think you have to come up with an outline. I think it's very important. You don't want to just throw a bunch of stuff together, but I kind of say, look at it as your goal, your treasure, and then begin to sift through it. Read your blog posts, listen to those old podcasts and all those bits where you go, there's some common themes. I'm always talking about sales, and I'm talking about how you have to, have more networking in order to be good at sales. And I said that in this live, and I said that in that podcast. And then you'll start to see how they can all come together. So that's essentially what I say is, repurpose your existing content,
Mm,
especially because it's probably in your natural voice, as opposed to if we start writing, like I can just write in my natural voice, but a lot of people, that teacher is in their head and they start writing very stiff and formal. Podcasts, that's just us. I don't have notes here. I don't have a
right.
teleprompter. It's my brain just coming out.
And one of the books you were co-authored had to do with your voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
And talk a little bit more about that, because you just mentioned voice to someone who may not know what that means, because you definitely have a writing voice that you develop. And how do you tell people to develop that voice, or what to look for?
Oh, that's a tricky question. And I think if I'll talk about the book in a second, but I think because I come from a Toastmasters background,
Mm,
I've always found that you do begin to know what's your unique voice when you're talking with people. Mine is actually very conversational. And I was actually on a summit yesterday and somebody was talking about AI, and you literally could take some of your podcast interviews, transcripts, and feed it into AI and say, help me figure out what my voice is. And you can do that kind of thing. You can, and I always kind of think of myself as like an Oprah Winfrey. I feel that, when I do interviews, I listen to people I'm not used to being the guest. I'm usually the host, but I listen to my guest. And I don't just show up with a slate of questions like a job interview. I listen to what they say, because that might take me to another thing. It becomes a conversation. So
right.
that's been very important to me in my writing style, is to have that conversational voice and that friendly voice. And I always want you to think that maybe I'm a mentor. I can kind of nudge you along. I want to be your Glinda in The Wizard of Oz, kind of whispering, you'll get to Oz.
It's an interesting image. Okay, fine.
So when I did that book, and this is it here, your voice matters. When I did this book, I was a co-author, and it's the first time I ever had the experience of being a co-author. And that's a very interesting thing, because now all of a sudden you have two voices in a book. And my
Yes, that.
co-author is Estonian. And so she was living in Belgium at the time. We were both at a conference. And we were meeting on Zoom. We're best friends. We were preparing for this conference. We had this amazing experience. We were both picked to go to the same conference. And it was the first time we got to meet in person. So we were like, how did
That's
this
cool.
happen? This is amazing. And we recorded our Zoom sessions as we were, you just stick on record. Who knows? Wonderful thing can
Right.
happen. And then after the conference, we kind of said, well, we should debrief. So, she went back to Belgium and I was in the UK, and we kept meeting on Zoom and we debriefed. And then we just said, I think there's a book in this. And that's the magical question. If you are ever in a conversation with somebody, your mother, your spouse, who knows, whatever, a stranger at the airport, and you say, I think there's a book in this, it means you've learned something, some sort of kitchen table wisdom that you feel if somebody else had this, they could kind of circumvent the process. They wouldn't have to go through all we went through. And we were absolutely honest. We just documented how do you prepare for an international conference? Because maybe there's somebody else who says, well, I wouldn't mind reading this book on the way to my conference in Dallas because it might help me.
Right. Right. And I had the very similar experience with the last book I wrote, which was a nonfiction piece, is that, you pull from your experiences, and and what I wanted to do was create a book that would be helpful to other people. So it's like, and I had that same epiphany, is like, there's a book in here somewhere. And it took me 7 or 8 drafts to find the right format and the right approach to it. But when you have that thought in your head of like, there's a book in this, grab onto it and run with it, because you got to listen to that inner voice, because it's telling you something, and you better move with it as well.
I love that.
You've mentioned this, and well, before I go to there, let me go to this. You are a huge proponent of video marketing.
Mm.
And while there is a lot of video marketing out there, it still seems to be something that people don't grasp onto in order to promote themselves very well. How would you tell someone who's maybe not a techno person, okay, you got to start doing some video marketing. What would you tell them to do? Would you tell them to focus specifically on a book they're trying to push, or would it be more put yourself out there and talk about you and some of the things you've seen or like or dislike? How would you approach that with someone?
Well, I think it's great. It's a great way to promote your book, but not in a buy my book, buy my book, buy my book,
Right.
because nobody wants to hear that. And the hardest thing with video is getting over yourself, because I think so many of us are like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm too old, or I got wrinkles, or I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound. It's all about me, me, me. I don't like this, I don't like that. And that's what holds us back from video. And when we can actually, and again, I'll go back to my Toastmasters experience, that I remember when I was being nervous, giving speeches in the beginning, and they said, stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about the audience. You're being very selfish,
Right.
Getting into your own fears and head. And they said, you have to realize your speech is a gift to everybody listening out there. So you should be figuring out, am I making eye contact? Am I pausing? Really say, how can I give the best speech to them? And the same is with when you're doing video. And so the same thing. Now, I actually learned something along my video journey, is that it's a lot easier to go live than to record a video. Because when you do a video and you pick up your phone and you're yapping into the phone, then you just go, well, that wasn't perfect, so I'll do it again and
Right.
again and again. And the next thing you know, you have 10 copies of the video. You don't like any of them. Sometimes you're just getting like an ear because you've moved your phone or something like that.
It's like
So if
trying
you
to
go-
edit your
yeah.
first draft. It's like trying
Yeah,
to edit
it's-
your first draft. You just get it down there and don't worry about, all the other things that you can clean up later.
Absolutely. So I think you're better off to go live. That's why I've been going live for 4 years. I think it's better off you just go live. You know that the audience is going to forgive you. I did a live a couple of months ago, and it was just before I was taking a break. And I went, boy, if this is not an indication I need to take a break. I did not have the sound on. Somehow my mic, I must have hit it with my elbow or something. And I did about 10 minutes into this live, and no one could hear me. And everyone was typing in the comments, we can't hear you. Somebody tried to phone me, and I'm like, why is somebody phoning me in the middle? I have it on Do Not Disturb. Why is it doing this thing? And then finally, all of a sudden, I got it. And then I was just like, and I had to just stop and tell everybody, wow. And I realized I can't go edit. Been
Right.
talking for 10 minutes. So I said, you know what? I'm going to just start over. So I just started over, and I just went back and started talking about what I was talking about. And I, of course, cut that 10 minutes out of my podcast when I repurposed it. But people are forgiving. And if you go live, then you can take those videos and create snippets later. So
Right.
lives can be many different things. And then, of course, then they can be transcribed and now they're blog posts and all sorts of different things. So with video marketing, my shortcut is don't do videos because they're hard. Videos are very hard. Go live and then cut it into snippets. So
Right.
it's just much easier way to do marketing. And like you said, you can talk about your book, but talk about your book in a way that is serves the listener, serves the audience. So you might say, hey, these are 3 tips in my book that if you just
Right.
listen to these tips, you'd find value. And
Talk
if
about
they
the topic, not how to buy the book, but talk about the topic and what you learned from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end, if what you're saying is resonating for them, they'll go buy your book. You don't have
Right.
to ask them. You don't need the call to action. You're
Right.
saying, okay, in this book, I talk about this and this. So let me give you a quick takeaway that you can just run with. And if they go, well, that's pretty awesome, then they'll go buy the book. And if
It's
they don't, who cares?
it's kind of universal. People want to know what you're going to be able to do for them. What problem are you going to solve for them, or what information can you give them that they don't have? Which is kind of a way to approach sales in just about any walk of life. How can I solve your problem? So, no, that's very insightful. I like that. Before we get into some of the bizarre questions, I have to ask you about 13 years ago, you put together a bucket list of libraries you wanted to visit at some time in your life. And I was going through that list, and it's a great list. Have you visited any of them yet, or is that still on your bucket list?
Still on my bucket list. And so whenever I go anywhere, I actually stop and, go to the library and I check it out. One of the libraries that, actually the town that I'm living in right now, which is just outside of San Antonio, in this little town here, it has the best library I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely beautiful. They have outdoor seating on the second floor where you can go and
Oh,
you can look at the
wow.
river. There's like a little river out there and trees, and it's just all glass. It's the most beautiful library. But one of my favorite libraries that I visited was actually in Kansas City, Missouri. And outside the library, they have these life-size books
Books.
on the buildings, and they're all banned books. And and I don't believe in censorship. I think we should all have, that's just me. I just
Right.
feel that I'm entitled to read whatever I want. So I hate the idea of banned books. But seeing all these books on these buildings like a big bookshelf, it just did something magical to me. I was just like, oh my gosh. So yes, I would love to go to as many libraries as I could in the world if my pocketbook would allow it.
I understand that completely. And I've seen the pictures of that library, of those books of the library in Kansas, and it looks amazing. I'd love to see that someday. I've been to the New York Public Library, and that's
Oh.
just an experience in and of itself.
And I always think of Ghostbusters,
right, exactly.
like the New York Library and the lions coming to life.
Right.
It's just a great place.
But the other one I want to go to is Library of Congress.
Yes.
Just
yes.
from that one crane shot in All the President's Men, where it's showing them, going through all the tickets and stuff. And it's just like, I want to see that. I want to be in that room and see
Exactly.
how cool that is. So,
and I remember recently I did my first copyright of a book. That was like something I thought, I think I'm going to copyright. Didn't copyright all of my books, but I wanted to copyright at least one and see what the process is. Cause I think we're always learning. And afterwards, that's where your book goes. It goes, you have to mail the book in. And so you just kind of go, because to me, the Library of Congress, that represents everything to do with education and learning. And I'm not worthy. Like, it's just such an amazing place, the Library of Congress. And to think now that like, I've got my book there, it's just,
that's cool.
That was a dream come true. You have to pay for it. It's not free. You have to pay for your copyright. But just knowing your book is now part of this collection of, worldly advice, and if I could go to one place, where I'd want to go, it doesn't exist anymore, but the Library of Alexandria, when you kind of go back and you read in the past, like
Mm,
what it would have been like. I'd love to be able, if I could time travel, I'd go back to that library, because I just think what that could have represented at that time. Now of course
right,
everything is on our phone.
right,
This is the library that they didn't even have back then, but
right.
that would be fun.
Well, that's going to lead into some of these questions, so that's good. So anyway, go out to jillianwhitney.com and you can see the books that she's written. You can also book some time with her if you've got a book going and you want some coaching. She's the person to do it. So give her a buzz. Go listen to her podcast. Get some of her books, and it should inspire you if you're on that edge of I've got a book in me and want to keep going. Might be the push and the inspiration you need. So I urge you to do those things. So, okay, let's ask you some of these bizarre questions because I never know what's going to happen. And that's the whole fun of it. If you were an ice cream flavor, what would you be?
Vanilla.
I don't think we've ever had anybody say that before.
Really?
Yeah.
That's because I'm an introvert. I think an
Okay.
introvert's like, I don't want to be noticed. I just be vanilla.
Oh, well, then this next one's not going to fly well. Then what song should play every time you walk into a room?
That's different. I like Katy Perry's Roar. And
Mm,
that is a song that when I need confidence, I go to that, because, there's a line that, like, you held me down, but I got up. I held me down and I got up. So I don't blame anybody in my world for ever doing anything to me. It was what I was doing to myself. Like, introverts, we can't do
right.
this. And so now I've got the eye of the tiger, and you're going to hear me roar. So that's my theme song now.
Okay, explain this to me because I don't, just because out of my own ignorance I don't get it. You do all these live things. You do, your live video casts and your podcast, and yet you say you're an introvert. How do those two go together?
Because I have to push myself every single time. So
Okay.
I'm actually I am an introvert. If you do the 16 personalities, I'm an INFJ. And as an introvert, what that means is doing anything in public absolutely drains me. So it's like
Okay.
when I'm done, I have to go take a nap. Like, it absolutely drains me. And going to a party, like, when you do those tests, like, okay, would you rather go to the party or stay home and read the book? I'd rather stay home and read the book. But I
Okay.
know, in order to be an entrepreneur, I can't just sit in my house and read a book.
Right.
You have to push yourself and you have to get out there. But I know my limits. So it's like, I can't do things back to back. I can only go to a party for so
Mm,
long. I can only do so many events. And then, in order to recharge my battery, because introversion and extroversion, it's all about your energy levels. And I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. What I mean is, extroverts, when they're with people, it energizes them. But
right.
introverts, when they're with people, it drains them. And so, in order to kind of like put my energy reserves back up again, I have to be alone. And that's why I can write. And that's why I read, because that is what I need to, like, okay, I can come out of my room now and be
That's so
back in the
cool that
world.
you figured all that out and realized that about yourself. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, I'm a psych major. So, I think having this
Uh-oh.
psychology really helps you figure out where you fit in. And truly, I highly recommend, there's a website called 16personalities.com where you can actually go take a test. It's 100% free. It's a very, very reputable psychological test. It's called Myers-Briggs
Oh,
personality test.
sure. Yeah.
And you just answer like a series of, multiple choice questions. And at the end, they tell you what you are. And I said I was an INFJ. Well, I'm an introvert. I'm a feeler instead of a thinker. I'm a very planned person. I don't like
Right.
things off the spur. So you really do then understand, I'm not weird. I'm just this. And that helps in everything we do.
It does. It does. When you realize, it's like realizing you're not alone with a certain type of trait or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not that bizarre, and that always makes me feel better when I realize that. So,
Right, right.
okay, what breed of dog would you be?
Probably a dachshund, only because I'm actually I'm short. I'm 5'4", and actually I went to the doctor the other day and they told me I was 5'3.5", and I said, "How did I lose half an inch? What's happening?" And they
As
said,
we get
"Yeah,
older,
as you get older, you lose weight. You lose height." And it's like, why don't you lose weight? That would actually be better. But I actually have a very tall body and I have short legs. And so I've actually had two dachshunds in my life. They were rescue dachshunds and I just loved and
cool.
adored them. And everybody said they are the perfect dog for you because they match. They match how you look, except they didn't have curly hair.
Okay, that works. That works. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
Oh boy. Um, well, I would like to choose Meg Ryan because I always loved her. I don't know if she's been in movies later. She was like in You've Got Mail and When
Right,
Harry Met Sally and this and that. And I always thought she had better curly hair than me and she was a blonde. So it's like I'd like to be a blonde. So I would like Meg Ryan to play me. Plus also too, I always just thought she was such a fun character
right.
and she loved books.
Yep.
She loved books.
So that's a good pick. What movie makes you laugh no matter how many times you've seen it?
Oh my gosh, it feels so unpolitically correct, but Blazing Saddles
Oh
is
yeah,
like,
come on.
it's like one of my favorite movies, and it's just like it's one of those movies you watch and you go, if this movie could not be made today, they would be run out of a rail. But I have to just tell you, there's just something about Mel Brooks. He has a crazy sense of humor. I've always loved every movie that he's ever done and they've always been over the edge on so
Right,
many levels. But Blazing Saddles just has to be my favorite with Mongo, and just it's hysterical. That's a hysterical movie. So if I am having a bad week and I watch that, I totally forget
right.
my troubles.
And it was just on Turner Classic Movies about a week or so ago.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they were talking about it. And I don't think it would have been made then had Richard Pryor not been one of the writers on the screenplay because they had a lot of resistance back then as well. So I
Oh,
don't
I'm
know.
sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure. And it's probably a classic of example of like everybody involved with that. They all could have protested the movie.
right.
It wasn't just one group of people. It was everybody just going, if we
Sure.
don't laugh at this stuff, like sometimes we just take everything so seriously and sometimes you just have to say, it's like I was watching somebody the other day who was like, they were made like fun of by South Park and they went, well, I could be mad about it. And I don't know them. I was watching it on a podcast and they said, well, I could be mad about it. Or I could just say, well, I guess I must be pretty big if they're making fun of me on
In
South
South
Park.
Park, right? So, and that could bring up a whole different conversation, but I'm not going to go down that road. What pizza topping best represents you?
Pineapple.
Cool.
Pineapple. I love pineapple on pizza. And I know that whenever I say what topping I want, people will just go, that's so bizarre. Like it's just not allowed. And I
No,
just always feel there are pineapple people out there. We're the little people that, we're sweet and we're fun and it makes the pizza a little bit more special. So that's how I look at life. Let's just be pineapple and be a little bit more special. So,
I
and
love
we need to be on
pineapple.
the pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love pineapple on pizza and just by itself. We always have one chunked up in the refrigerator because
Mm.
it's one of my favorites. What's your favorite word?
Oh, yes.
Mm,
Yes. Yes is my favorite word because I think that's a word we don't say enough. I think we say no way too much. And yes is like, and I have this thing where if somebody asks me to do something, I like to say not only yes, but yes, yes. Once to say, yes, I'm doing it. And yes, the second yes to say, and I'm totally committed. And I
Right.
think when we make that commitment, we need to do stuff. So I think long and hard before I say yes, because if I say yes, then I mean it with the yes, yes. So
That's
that's
cool.
my favorite word.
Let's kind of go to the opposite end of the spectrum. What's your favorite curse word?
Wanker. And it's
I
because
love that.
like I'm actually British born abroad. I actually have 4
Sure.
citizenships. And so I am British born abroad. And I grew up in a family where, everybody was always swearing. And it always sounded funny because nobody else was ever using these words, and my mother would say, bloody hell, she'd
Yeah,
just
right.
say all these things.
That's
And
great.
they never sounded like swear words, but American swear words, and actually I'm Canadian born by birth, but American swear words, they're just kind of like, they're nasty. I don't
Right.
use American swear words.
They're
They're too nasty.
aggressive. They can be
Right. But
very aggressive.
if you use British swear words, people just don't even know what you're saying. So it's great.
And I'm glad you just said you're Canadian born because I've picked up a little bit of that in your accent. I was like, oh, I wonder if she's from Canada.
About, it's when I say about,
Right.
that's the giveaway. I
Yep.
can never pretend that I was born here because people would know. But I'm American now.
That's cool. Which holiday would you erase altogether from our calendars if given the opportunity?
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Um Maybe Halloween. And it's kind of sad because on the one hand, I loved being a kid and dressing up for Halloween and getting all the, the goodies
Right.
and stuff like that. But I think that sometimes it feels a little weird with all the we're embracing death. We're embracing darkness. I actually, I'm Jewish, and one of my favorite Jewish holidays is Hanukkah, which is
Right.
all about embracing light. And so I've always kind of seen Halloween as just like, it doesn't feel good. I don't like to dress up. I don't like to have trick-or-treaters come to the door. I've never liked it. I've just never liked it on so many levels. But it doesn't mean I would go and get rid of it for everyone else. It's just kind of something I don't really care.
It's not for you. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you 2 things. This is kind of an either or thing, and you just tell me what your preference is on it. And we'll start off with an easy one we all know the answer to now. Pineapple pizza or candy corn?
Oh, pineapple pizza. That's like made for me. Yeah. Especially with the candy corn being Halloween.
Right. Exactly. I mean, just put 2 and 2 together there. Summer or winter?
Oh, summer. Light.
Yep. Bananas or watermelon?
Bananas. I love bananas. Bananas are fun.
Library or museum?
Oh, library. No brainer. Library.
Yeah. If you had said museum, I would have gone, huh? But okay, I get it. Toilet paper, over or under?
I think it's over. I think over.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a right way, but that's how I think I do it.
The 2 sides are very militant about their decisions, whether they're over or under. Both sides are very militant about it to the point where they go in and change the roles in people's houses if they're
Oh
visiting.
my gosh. And see, I don't even notice. I even have to think, what's mine? And I know I changed the toilet paper recently. My husband's been out of town. So it's just like, I probably didn't even think about it.
Right. Cake or pie?
Probably cake. Cake is fun.
Cool. Passenger or driver?
Well, I like to be the driver, but I'm usually delegated to be the passenger.
I understand.
So what I find is if you're going to be the passenger, then make sure that like you've got lots of things to do. So it's like, put that to good use. Make sure you got your own phone charger. Make sure you've got something to keep you occupied, whatever. So if you're going to be the passenger, at least have fun.
Absolutely. What superpower would you rather have? The ability to move objects telekinetically or the ability to shift your shape?
Ooh, that's a spooky one. Shift my shape. I think it would be more, is it telekinesis when you can move
Right.
things around. I think that would actually be kind of cool. Like it's like if I could be sitting here and I'd be like, okay, I look over and it's like, oh, I could really use that pen right now. And,
Right.
it would come. I think that would be awesome. So yes, I'm
I'm really
votes
thirsty
for
and my
that.
drink is over there. I think I'd like to get,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Would you rather give up your cell phone for a month or bathing for a month?
Well, uh, bathing, like actually being in a bath is like, I love taking baths. I love taking baths. And I actually, when I moved abroad, I moved to Israel and I was gone for a year and a half and I didn't have a bath because we only had a shower.
Right.
And that was like, when I came back here, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I could ever be without a bath again. So I've had my fill of baths. I'm so dependent on my cell phone now, though, for news and calls and texts and this and that I don't think I could give up my cell phone. It's really hard. I do try to turn it off once a week. I try to kind of
Right.
go cell phone free once a week just to recharge my battery. And I do put it on do not disturb a lot. Like
Yeah, I
when
do
I'm
too.
online, when
Yeah.
I'm writing, I think we have to carve away time with the cell phone. And I've heard of people that actually put their cell phone in a box and they kind of lock it and have some like distraction time away from it. So
Right.
I think that's good because it definitely does affect our concentration.
Creates a little bit of separation so we
Mm.
can concentrate on other things.
Mm.
Would you rather go 100 years into the future or 100 years into the past?
Definitely into the past. I have no, I get scared. I don't know what the future could be.
I
So
understand
that's
that.
too much of a great unknown. I think I'd like to go back into the past because I have to be honest with you. I'm of the age BG before Google. And when we
Me too.
actually, everything wasn't just going to Google where we would use encyclopedias and we would go and do research and we would go camping and it was just like, we would just read books because there was no cell phones to
Right.
bring. Nobody had that stuff. So I would like to go into the past and be away from all this electronic social media and all that sort of thing. You think about going into the future, I don't even know what we would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's embedded in our brains. We can't even turn it off. I would be too afraid to go into the future. So back to the past for me. Thank you.
I always thought using a card catalog was cool.
It was.
I miss those at libraries because it was just like
Yes.
it's like a detective work kind of thing.
They were
So
beautiful. They were, and they were, I used to work in a library when I was like, in college, and it was
right.
just literally going to these, and they were sort of majestic, these card catalogs.
Yeah,
They
they were
would take up
huge.
they were
Yeah.
huge. They were huge. And they were so organized. It was such a good system.
God. So yeah, and we used to go on vacation and we'd rent a place that didn't even have a television. So it was like you had to, listen to your radio or read a book or do something like
Play
go down.
checkers
Yeah,
and
do
card
something.
games.
So
Yep.
yeah, I miss that as well. Would you rather be stuck in a romantic comedy with your worst enemy or in a horror movie with your best friend?
Ooh, probably. I don't know. Boy, that's a tough one.
It's a tough
That's a tough
question.
one. I guess I'd rather be in, I wouldn't, just because I don't even like Halloween and stuff. I don't like watching horror movies. It's
Right.
like there's enough. Turn on the news. There's enough horror in the real world. I don't
Right,
need to
exactly.
put that in my brain. So I think I would do anything to keep myself out of a horror movie. In the romantic comedy, even if it's my enemy, well, maybe I can escape them, or
Right.
maybe I can
Work around them.
turn them over, or do something. So I think I would feel more hopeful, but I would never want to be in a horror movie, no matter who was with me.
Okay. Would you rather have whatever you are thinking appear above your head in a bubble for everyone to see, or have absolutely everything you do be live streamed for everyone to watch?
Ooh, interesting. I would probably say I'm okay with the thought bubble, because it's like I think my thoughts are very honest, and I'm a very good person. I don't really have secrets, so I don't walk around. I don't kind of comment. I try not to gossip and all that sort of stuff. So anything that really popped out of my head, people would either think is boring or they would be just like, that seems like her. Like it wouldn't be a big deal. But the live streaming your whole life, I don't think I'd like that, because I think there's times where I want to just wear my hair, up, and, having a bad hair day, and just being able to sit, wearing comfy clothes. And
Right.
so that's why I'm not an influencer who's always on their phone, because it's like, I either look good or I don't.
Right.
So I would not want to be live streamed all the time, because that would just be too much pressure.
I get that. Yeah, no, that I wouldn't like that either. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
This was so fun. This was so fun.
With me today has been Jillian Whitney. I almost said Gillian Anderson. Wow, the X-File just kind of creeped up on me there.
I love it. Now I'm going to have to pick her to be me, because we got the same names. She would be my actress.
Jillian Whitney. You can go out to her website, which is jillianwhitney.com. If you're into writing or thinking about writing, she's a book coach. She is an author. She has several books out there about the craft of writing and the craft of marketing that writing. And please avail yourself of her services. And again, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being such a gracious host. And thank you for having me on. It's been so much fun.
My pleasure. And thank you for watching and listening. And we'll see you again next time on the Hydrant Podcast.